Time is timey-wimey. Dreams are dreamy-weemy. Very much, yeah. Would it be so bad if an 84-year-old got into heroin?
Welcome to the Cat Organizational Podcast.
You idiot. It's written down in front of you idiot.
This is like the buffalo chicken wrap of answers.
I haven't heard about hot orcs in a while.
We were so horny for motion controls in 2005.
I can't wait to come back and tell you how it was Noah's Ark, you asshole.
I would also like to retroactively say I've never had cotton candy acid.
So Andrew's 100% doing a voice, right?
Everybody get off IMDb now. Time to record.
This episode and probably this whole podcast is a mistake. Hello and welcome to Debate This, the show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong. In this show, we talk about comic books, video games, and how it's pumpkin spice season already, just to try and make us feel something.
Give us the teat, Starbucks.
It's the only amount of joy I've really felt this week.
Time isn't meaningful anyway, so why not? Why not get our pumpkin syrup back?
I mean, it's August.
It's pumpkin season, Todd. It's October now.
Us yelling about this has the same energy as my mom saying, being in Kmart saying, it's too early for Halloween decorations.
No, this is different. And granted, I realize I've said this is August and this is not dropping in August, but like, it's buck wild that pumpkin spice lattes were released before some high school students attempted going back to school.
Yeah,
That's wild.
Like I said, just to evoke a response.
Just to feel something.
Pumpkin spice is back in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So occasionally on this show, we take a break from yelling and making bad puns to do deep dives into nerd lore so that you, our listeners, can up your nerd cred without doing anything boring like reading for yourselves.
Yeah, nerds.
I would like to point out that I've never made a bad pun on this podcast.
I thought you were going to
debatable.
point out that you were anti-reading.
Yeah, he's big against reading.
Are we back on this libraries bit? We left this bit like 2 years ago.
We never got off this bit.
This is my favorite bit.
God damn it.
We are so dedicated to this public duty of ours that we make our services available to you for the low price of $50. We will research and discuss any topic tangentially related to nerdery so that you can be better formed fans. Today's episode came about by one such commission from longtime fan of the show and big-time fan of Matt, Brenda Cole.
The upward inflection was really important. Thank you.
Time fan of Matt?
Unless I'm jumping to conclusions. For her $50, Brenda has requested a deep dive into Neil Gaiman's graphic novel and goth staple Sandman, released by DC Comics in 1989 through 96.
Woo! And I need to point out that she requested Sandman because Sandman was the free Audible audiobook of the month. And nothing gets my mom going quite like the free Audible audiobook of the month.
Which, like, I have so many questions, namely, what does a graphic novel and an audiobook sound like? That's wild.
Yeah.
I did not listen to the graphic novel, to the audiobook. I read the graphic novel. My guess is it is a little rewritten and you get some...
Right, you'd have to imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Some like narration, some set dressing that is drawn in the graphic novel but is not there. But it's got like a stacked cast. James McAvoy's our lead. That's all I know because his name kept coming up when I was researching.
Oh.
It's got a stacked cast. James McAvoy. James
Other
McAvoy.
actors.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah,
is,
there we go.
Wait, I'm on the wiki
So-
right now.
So it's more like an audio drama.
Yeah,
That
it's
makes
like
sense.
an audio drama. Yeah.
Okay, I get down with that. But I think the question was, not to steal Matt's thunder, I think the question was, did I miss anything from the audio, from not reading the graphic novel? Was that the idea?
I would guess. Neil Gaiman's good at his adaptations. He's had a few of his books made into pretty successful movies, but there's some really great art, some really interesting like comic book storytelling, and I imagine some of the fluff gets cut out in the book, which we'll get into that, and you can imagine some of these things not translating as well to audio, but I can't speak to how the adaptation is itself.
Apparently Joseph Gordon-Levitt was to be involved in the film version. And there's an adaptation in development for Netflix.
Oh, cool.
I
That'd
did
be
see
fun.
that this week. I saw that there was a Sandman thing confirmed for Netflix, I think at DC Fandom.
There is already a Netflix show
Oh.
featuring a character from this story, which is Lucifer.
Oh.
Yeah,
Interesting.
So wait, the Lucifer show on Netflix is like a DC property?
I believe so.
No shit.
Yeah,
That show looks like garbage.
it's the number one trending show on Netflix today. So,
Well, so is Warrior Nun, and that is also trash.
Woof.
so what do you guys know of either Sandman, Neil Gaiman, or anything?
Can I go first?
Please.
Nothing.
Good.
Yeah.
I would like to follow that with a not shit.
Yeah, very little. I heard about this a couple years ago. I think they talked about it on Game Grumps, which is where I first heard about it, which is
Okay.
where I get most of my
I think you're
most
right.
of my
yeah.
cultural zeitgeist. And I heard Dan from Game Grumps talk about it, and I was like, that sounds really cool. And every time I go to a bookstore, I look at an anthology
Yeah.
and pretend I'm gonna buy it, and then don't buy it.
Yeah.
I pulled up the Neil Gaiman Wikipedia, and there is exactly one piece of Neil Gaiman anything that I have seen, and it's Coraline.
Yeah. That was where I was going next. Was you might not know that it's Neil Gaiman, but he wrote Coraline, the book that was then turned into the movie. He was involved in the writing of the movie. He's also written the novel American Gods, which has a Showtime show
Yeah.
Yes.
right now, and that is very good. He has another. Does it Star Child? It's Star something. Anyway, he's not unknown, but he's also not like a household name. So you're forgiven.
Stardust,
Thank you.
which was also a movie.
Yeah, Stardust, which is also a movie. Before we go any further, just real quick, I pulled up the cast of the audio drama audiobook of the Sandman,
Hit me with
and it is A+. It's James McAvoy, Kat Dennings, Taron Egerton, Michael Sheen, Riz Ahmed, Andy Serkis, Samantha Morton, and Babe Newirth.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
Neil Gaiman is the narrator.
Being a somewhat fan of his for a while, I follow him on Twitter. He is very good at these, like he is chummy with celebrities. He gets good people involved in his projects. So a little backstory into Gaiman. He's an English author, very known for his fantasy horror stories. He actually got his start in long form journalism and writing short stories, and kind of broke out with his first book in 1984, a biography on Duran Duran.
Hell
which-
yeah.
Yeah. He has since removed his name from it, but
Oh,
it apparently sold out real quick, was pretty successful. He's not necessarily proud of the work he did on it, though. So in that same year, after reading Swamp Thing by Alan Moore, he became friends with the author Alan Moore and decided to make the jump into writing comic books. He dipped his toes in the water by taking over Moore's run of Miracle Man after a rights dispute. After a few successful stints on other independent comic runs, Gaiman was hired by DC in '87 to rewrite and update an old character that they had acquired, the Sandman, which they would then spin off to launch their Vertigo Comics, which was their like adult, quote unquote, branch of comics at the time.
cool. So, the only Sandman in comics that I have ever heard of is the Spider-Man Sandman.
Yep. Yeah.
And I am curious, Kyle, if you know which Sandman came first, because I don't.
So I actually did not, in my research, because this is so dense, I did not go
I'm
into...
gonna guess Marvel's Sandman.
I imagine it's Marvel's Sandman. So a little bit of
Yes, I just Googled September 1963.
Yeah, so a decade or so.
He's early. He's Gen 1 Spider-Man, yeah. Sorry, Kyle.
Got it.
so an interesting thing with this and Sandman and a lot of DC characters is that DC has gobbled up a lot of smaller independent comic book printers over its years. And the Sandman and a lot of these characters in this are that where like two companies merged and they got these characters, so now like they've got 4 versions of independent comic book publishers Superman or whatever. So
Sure.
in the 80s they kind of went through and rewrote some of these characters that were very similar to each other, and Sandman was one of them.
Cool.
So the Sandman is a collection of 11 titles, and then there's like 2 books that tie into it that I did not read that follow Dream, the personification and lord of all dreams, stories, and anything not real.
Okay.
Dream is one of 7 endless. He and his siblings, Destiny, Death, Destruction, Desire, Despair, and Delirium, who was originally Delight, are all the anthropomorphized forms of those concepts they're named for.
This is already rad. The
Yeah,
alliteration,
this is really cool.
When you said Dream and then started naming D names, I was like, there's no way they stick the landing on this alliteration. They did. And that's...
They did, and even
Great.
had an 8th one for it.
Yeah.
So these endless are older and more powerful than man and God and myth. They're kind of the core formings of the universe personified. That's the power we're dealing with in this comic, is universe changing stuff.
Yeah, it's very like Greek gods. It's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny
I
you
like
say
that.
that because there are a lot of Greek gods in this as well. He runs into a lot of different mythologies through this run. So Dream, our main character, rules over the metaphysical plane of symbol, belief, and imagination, which is known as
Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is known as the dreaming or the dream world. He has a satchel of sand that is dream world material that is his kind of conduit for his powers when he's out in our world. He's got his helmet, which let me drop a picture of the helmet in the document because it looks like a sleeping paralysis demon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Rad.
It is formed from the skull and spine of a slain god.
Fuck.
We don't get any more information than that. It's also his sigil. So each of the endless have a symbol that represents them. His is his helmet.
As cool as this is, this also feels like it's 2 steps away from being Kingdom Hearts.
This has big Kingdom Hearts energy. And then his last object is the Dream Stone, which is a ruby that's the physical manifestation of his power, which is the first part of the story.
Okay, real quick question.
Answers.
And this is a dumb question, so I want to ask it now before we get too deep. And I go, oh, and everybody's like, yeah, of course. Is Dream the title character, the Sandman?
He is not that he is ever really referred to as the Sandman. Part of
Got
his
it.
lore is he appears to these endless perform all these duties for every civilization in the universe. So they all appear to different people differently. There's a whole comic where he appears as a cat, to like a house cat. It's very good. We'll get to it. So the Sandman is one of his many names, but
Okay, cool.
he goes by Dream, or and I only refer to him as Dream. He goes by Dream or Morpheus the whole time.
Got it. Sweet.
Is that who McAvoy plays in
Yes.
the... Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So Dream has no permanent form, but in our story, and to humans, he most frequently appears as a gaunt, pale man with empty black eyes, snow-white skin, and shoulder-length black messy hair. And you can see from the side-by-side I put in the chat, looks like Neil Gaiman did it when in '89.
Not subtle.
Yeah.
We'll put up an Imager album too.
This will absolutely go in an Imager album for you guys.
Is that how you pronounce it?
I've always
Imager.
said Imgur.
It's
Imager.
I also have always said Imgur, but Andrew,
This sounds like a GIF versus GIF situation, and I'm here to die on the hill of Imgur.
I'm telling you, it's Imager because I came across a couple people that work there because when I lived in
Oh yeah, my dad works
California.
at Nintendo. Whatever.
Whatever. When I lived in California, I used to walk by their office every day, and I met with and drank with a couple people who work there, and it's Imager. It's Imager.
Imager.
So we'll put an Imgur link in the notes.
Fuck you guys.
So with that's our setup. We'll get more into that. Any questions before we dive into the story? How are we feeling?
I'm stoked. Let's go.
Yeah, this is rad as shit.
that helmet looks rad.
So our first book is the first 8 issues, Preludes and Nocturnes. This is our setup to our story. So in the early 1900s, a magician and leader of an occultist organization named Roderick Burgess performs a ritual to try and capture Death so he can coerce her into granting him immortality, eternal power, blah, blah, blah.
As one does.
A tale as old as time.
But he accidentally captures Dream instead and imprisons him in a glass crystal ball, basically, for 70 years.
Bummer.
Yeah. Roderick dies, and his son Alex comes to visit Dream, who escapes and curses the son with eternal wakening, which traps him in nightmare after nightmare, where he keeps waking up from one into the other
Holy
until
shit.
he dies.
Yeah, that's
Bigger bummer.
terrible.
Until he dies.
Yikes.
If you die in the dream, you die for real.
While Dream is captured, those 70 years, roughly 1916 to 1984, there's all kinds of like sleep sickness where people fall into like a state of perpetual sleepwalking, a general feeling of like uninspiredness. There's effect on our world for him being captured for so long. Like half this first book is showing how awful we are punished for this like core foundation of our universe being taken out of commission for 70 years. There is one character who, while under the sleep sickness, where we meet her, she comes up later, is why I bring that up. So Dream breaks out and tries to go back into his dream world, and fails because he's been trapped for 70 years and he doesn't have his objects of power, the helmet, the gem, and his sand.
Can't go anywhere. Don't got my pocket sand.
I definitely thought of Dale and his pocket sand, so that's where I'm at.
He needs his pocket sand.
Well,
So he tracks down his sand first, which was in possession of the demon hunter John Constantine
Oh, that's a name I know.
Hey.
oh yeah.
of the Keanu Reeves movie and NBC show fame. So he does a little adventure with John Constantine to get his sand back. He then, with his sand, goes to hell to meet with Lucifer, who we, at the top of the show, mentioned, has the Netflix show.
That's crazy that Netflix show has been on for 5 fucking seasons, and I had no idea it was a comic property. Not a single clue.
It's spun off of Constantine, I believe.
Gotcha.
So, in hell, he asks Lucifer to help him find the demon that has his helmet, summons the demon to hell, and does a battle of imagination with the demon.
That's so good. Battle of imagination.
It's a real doubling down to Georgia fiddle battle situation.
It's so in the comic it plays out where the demon starts and he's like, I am an ant and I bite your leg, and Dream returns with, "I am a horse stomping the ant," and they're
just role playing.
They're role playing, and it's very good.
It's actually called LARPing, Andrew, and it's rude that you would call it otherwise.
They LARP. So he gets his helm back, and he defeating this demon for some reason embarrasses Lucifer, who swears vengeance on Dream, but he leaves with his helmet to go get his Dream Stone, who has been in the possession of Dr. Destiny, another low-tier DC villain that had been picked up somewhere along the way. And Dr. Destiny had dream powers in his first appearance, so he is in this is retconned to have gotten them from this Dream Stone. So he has the Dream Stone, which drives him insane and withers him away to this, like, if you think the ghouls from Fallout kind of looking form,
Mm-hmm.
it's too much power for him. He escapes Arkham Asylum, goes to a diner, traps the patrons in this diner, and just like creates this nightmare diner to torture them until they all kill each other. Dream shows up, they battle, which ends with Dr. Destiny trying to break the stone, thinking it will kill Dream, but actually just releases all the power in it, returning Dream to his full strength. This issue ends with Dream meeting his sister Death. We meet her for the first time, and they chat about, "Where have you been?" "Oh, I've been imprisoned." "That sucks. He was trying to imprison you, actually." So they have like this conversation, and he hangs out with her while she performs her duties as Death and like visits people just as they're dying. And it kind of reminds him like, "Oh yeah, I've got responsibilities and a job to do and important to the fabric of the universe. I need to go do them." And sets out on this kind of like, what has gone wrong in my absence? How can I fix it journey.
Okay. So that's setting up the series.
That sets us up.
I don't know what I expected the story to be. That's not it, and I dig it.
Same.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. It's an interesting way to introduce your protagonist. Like basically, like they're super Metroiding him. He's got to get all his stuff back.
Yeah, very much what it is.
One thing I want to know here. So it's interesting that we have Death as a character, as a female character, because I believe that's the same with Marvel. Yes, there's a Death in Marvel.
Yes.
Yep.
And it is also a woman in Marvel because it's Thanos' like ultimate goal to seduce and earn the love of Death.
And then, and then because the way that Marvel goes, Deadpool ends up marrying Death at one point, I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there are characters like that where Marvel and DC each have one because they're in the public domain and no one can claim them. So, Thor and Loki show up in this story later.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's not Marvel's Thor or Marvel's Loki, but the Thor and Loki of Norse mythology.
It's like how Magic the Gathering can just have Cthulhu. Like they just have it.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Public domain is a sweet, sweet thing.
Yep.
Anyone else? Book 2?
I dig it.
Yeah.
Book 2. All right. So book 2 opens with a tribal leader telling a young man a legend of their culture or whatever. It's they're out in the desert. It's a manhood ritual. He tells them the story of an ancient queen in their tribe, Nada, who had fallen in love with Dream. Concerned about the issues that come up with a mortal dating an endless, or being in a relationship with an endless, Nada breaks off the relationship, which pisses Dream off and sends her to hell for the rejection. Which, when he visits hell in the last book, she's there, and he's like, "Hey, still haven't forgiven you yet. Keep enjoying hell."
So
That's
okay,
rad.
so Dream is not like Dream isn't necessarily like a squeaky clean hero character that we love. He is just the main character, not a good character.
Not a good or bad character, mostly because he exists he's above what good and bad could be. He's very cold. He's very vengeful. He has very harsh punishments we'll keep seeing throughout the story. So part of this whole story is him kind of like learning that about himself and learning like, oh, I need to empathize with these people.
Maybe I shouldn't be so much a dick.
Yeah. But yes, he at this point is still very much like, nope, keep enjoying hell. Don't know when that's going to change. So we cut to present day, and we meet Desire and Despair, two more endless. Desire is a like very androgynous character, very vain. Their realm is a giant just a giant image of them, and they keep tearing down and like changing, but it's a statue to them. And Despair is an older woman who has like this hook finger that keeps
awesome.
cutting herself, and like is very desperative. It's
If anyone not looking at the Imager album, we've got effectively latter day Michael Jackson with an 80s tux, and then what I would imagine the best description would be one of the fates, like one of the three fates, either from Hercules, but like not wearing any clothes.
It's not great.
You get them saggy boobs.
Not to be confused, the fates are in this. Those three.
Oh,
okay.
They're the ones who send.
That tracks.
They tell Dream where his stuff is in the first book. They are called the kindly ones in this. And let me get a picture of the kindly ones in here, since that's what we're doing. So Desire is telling Despair their plan for no other reason than their own amusement. Want to kind of take Dream down. They don't like their place on the hierarchy or something, but they just, that's the personality kind of like, I got this idea. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take down my brother Dream. That plan involves this new, what is known as a dream vortex on Earth. It's a person with some of the powers of Dream that is born about once an era. We cut to Rose Walker.
Wait, okay, hold on. A couple of things. One, this is really cool. It definitely gets like closer and closer to Greek mythology the more you go through it.
Totally.
Two, do they define how long an era is at any point? Cool.
No.
Got it.
It is implied that we're at the beginning of a new era.
Got it. So it's like any time everybody who would remember the last one is dead and gone and the legend has died, a new one comes around.
Yes.
Cool.
Pretty much. Yeah, you got it. So we cut to Rose Walker, granddaughter of Unity Kincaid. Do you remember the woman I told you had the sleeping illness in the first one? That's Unity.
Okay.
So she had fallen into an unwakeable sleep while Dream was imprisoned. Her very wealthy family put her in a nursing home. In that nursing home, she was raped and gave birth to a child. All this happened while she was asleep. And when Dream was released, she woke up to inherit her family's wealth and is now looking for the rest, that child, which is Rose's mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack.
Hold on. Can you... Sorry, I think I need the family tree one more time. So Unity Kincaid is the one who was asleep.
She's the grandmother. She was asleep.
Oh, okay. Grandmother was the key word that I missed. Yep. I'm good now. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, the mother is in the story, but Rose is the important one.
Got it.
For whatever reason. So we find Rose. She is on a search for her younger brother Jed. They'd been separated in the foster care system. The mom Unity got her mom's life back together, who has now gotten Rose and her kid, and they're all going to live with grandma. Jed is currently in the care of very abusive, like, check chasers. They got him for the $800 a month child support they get, but he is locked in a basement, being bitten by rats, peeing in a corner.
Got it.
Man, this screams 1989.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
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 We meet some housemates for Rose. They come back later. They're set dressing for this story. While Jed is kept locked in this basement, he is also being he has been chosen by like 2 former henchmen of Dream to be their playground to launch their own dream world, so to speak.
What?
So they have, every human has a connection to the dream world when you go to sleep or when you imagine things, whatever. They hijacked this little boy's connection, isolated him in it, and are practicing how that goes because they're trying to take over the main dream world.
Okay, cool. Sure.
They're in the Doctor Strange mirror dimension.
Yeah.
Just practicing.
Yeah. So they've isolated this kid in a pocket dream world, basically.
Yeah.
They are using 2 humans to kind of facilitate talk to the child for them because they're weird extra dimensional beings that don't understand humans. One of whom is a woman who is pregnant named Taya. She also comes back later. Dream learns what his henchmen are doing, kills those 2, frees Jed, kind of releases the woman who is pregnant. They're helping them back into the world. The woman who's pregnant has been in this dream world helping for 3 years. 6 months pregnant when she went in, still pregnant 3 years later. When she is released, Dream tells her that's going to come up later, basically. I don't know what it's going to be, but like that did something to that baby.
Man, imagine telling a pregnant woman that's going to come up later.
Hey, listen, we're going to have a thing.
I don't think I understand how dreams work in this universe.
I don't think I do either. I think that's one of my biggest points of confusion.
Yeah.
So ask questions, I guess.
Okay, well, let me run through to you what I understand. And then perhaps you can fill in the gaps, right? So there is Dream World. It's a universe. It exists.
Is it
whatever.
just a plane of existence?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then every living being has their connection to Dream World when they dream.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay,
right?
that makes sense.
So Dream World, big hub world, right? But each individual being has their like little pocket of heaven, their little like pie slice of Dream World, right? And so like when these henchmen hijacked this boy, they like fenced off his island in Dream World.
Imagine like a hose going from the dream world to the kid. They pinched off the hose and set up their own dream world on the kid's side of it.
On the kid's side of the pinch.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were like a fake dream world.
Yes.
Like a forgery.
Yes.
Right.
Very
Okay.
much so.
And him as the host.
So that's thing. Okay, I get that. Cool. Going back to this pregnant lady who was pregnant for 3 years and 6 months.
And because I didn't tell that story well. So
that's okay. So what I am coming to gather is that like they also like hijacked her dream world. Yes.
No. So they take this man, and this is where they like close off the old Sandman story. They take this man and tell him, "You are Sandman. This child is fighting evil in his dreams. You need to help him."
Okay.
And he does. He's a big dummy. He buys it hook, line, and sinker and just has a blast like fighting off these fake dreams they set up for this kid. His wife comes along with him. She's already pregnant when they go into this pocket dream world. They are all living in Jed's pocket dream world.
Okay. And they like so they exist, their consciousness exists in this kid's dream world, which is on the kid's side of the kinked hose of the actual dream world universe.
You got it. But their physical bodies exist in there.
Oh, okay. So they got like zipped out of the real world.
Yes.
And weird. Okay. Got it.
So it's really like in this universe, when you dream, you just go to another dimension, or you just go to another universe, or another big plane of existence.
Yes.
And this small boy, this small frail boy, was trapped in his own forgery of a plane of existence with said other people.
Yes.
And also time is timey-wimey.
Time is timey-wimey. Dreams are dreamy-weemy. Very much. Yeah.
Okay.
This is just the story of Dark Souls 2. That joke was for me and me alone, but someone out there will get it.
I feel like playing Dark Souls for the story is like playing Tetris for the lore. Like, that's not why people bought that game.
No, dude, the Dark Souls story is really good, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Sandman.
We're talking about Sandman. So this whole story I'm about to tell is told to set up the character Lyda and her child, which we'll get to. But this is the time vortex story. So Jed wakes up from his dream. Dream manifests in where Jed is and helps him get back to Rose. Everyone's happy.
That's the Sandman. Oh, wait.
And that's the Sandman. Everyone has their brief reunion. Dream takes Rose to the dream world and tells her, "You're this time vortex. It's real bad. Your existence in the world would shatter the separation between the dream world and your world, flooding your world with unreality and dreams and nightmares. And I can't have that. I have to kill you." She's about to die when Unity appears in the dream world and is like, "Wait, Unity, how did you get in the dream world?" "Well, actually, I'm the time vortex. But it got put on hold. It got suppressed when she had the sleep sickness and passed to her granddaughter for whatever reason." This is exactly how it is.
I'm the time vortex.
Look at me. I am the time vortex now.
This is exactly how it is how it plays out in the story, where she like jumps in and is like, "What's up, everyone? Don't kill my granddaughter. Kill me instead." Like,
what up, fam?
Because that's how dreams work. So Unity dies. Rose returns to live with her mom and brother. Dream is very confused and doesn't know how all this works, but he's like, "It worked." Carrying on, and like goes about that. Again, all of this is told to set up Lyda Hall, or Hippolyta Hall, daughter of Wonder Woman. Not the important part of her character, though.
Hippolyta.
Hippolyta.
Thank
you. That's how it's pronounced.
It's a famous Shakespeare character.
Yep.
Yes. There's an epilogue where Dream confronts Desire and learns that it was actually Desire who impregnated Unity when she was asleep, hoping that when Dream killed someone with endless lineage, he would be punished for breaking some ancient rule or violating some foundation of the universe. And he calls her out on it, says, "Don't do this ever again," and leaves. Because that's all they can kind of do.
You cut that out.
You cut that out. So it was Desire was the grandfather of Rose and Jed.
Got it. Okay.
So the comparison to the Greek gods then is pretty close.
Yeah, they've got.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's basically just these endless, just like they get bored and they just go down to Earth and fuck with humans for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty much.
And try and get at each other for no real reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got nothing else to do.
We'll get more into that too.
they're a reason.
Questions before we go into book 3.
They're basically setting the stage for like, there are rules here, but also there are all these powers that like we were just saying are going to screw with one another. And so get ready for more of that.
Get ready for more.
I do have a question actually. So explain to me, help me understand, what is Dream's actual power? Does Dream have actual power and or control over the eponymous Dream World universe, or is it
Yes.
more like he's like the warden of the universe?
So he
Dream World.
in the dream world, he controls and shapes reality in the dream world.
Okay.
He has full near omnipotent power while in the dream world. He brings aspects of the dream world with him to other realms so that he can still have his power, but it's manifested through his helmet, his sand,
Mhm.
and the stone.
Got it. Okay.
Cool.
Similarly to where Death is the warden of her realm, though, he is also the warden of dreams and has to make sure everything in the realm is
Right.
getting along fine.
So when he was imprisoned, that was why like things like shit got fucked up because
Yes.
he's not there.
Yes,
Got it. Okay.
you got it.
Okay, Kyle, question for you, and just an honest question. Going forward from book 2, how many of these characters do I need to remember the like grave importance of, or is it really just Lyta?
You want Lyta, her son. We're pretty done with Rose and Jed,
Okay.
but they're coming back. Their roommates are coming back. Rose's roommates come back later, which we'll
Sure.
get into then.
Cool. Got it.
The seven endless. All you all need to know, but so far it's Lyta and the endless.
Awesome. All right, got it. Let's roll.
Cool. Book 3, Dream Country. This is more of a few short stories involving Dream. The first one is like a 3-issue or trilogy long one that we follow Calliope, the Greek muse. We learn she has been the prisoner of an old author named Erasmus Fry.
Lead character of Futurama.
Lead character of Futurama, for about as long as Dream had been imprisoned. So this part of the story is all happening while Dream is imprisoned. Fry is visited by Richard Maddock, a young author. He's struggling to write his second novel after his first one does well, and trades it's a magical object, a Bezor for anyone who wants to know. Trades a magical object to this old author for Calliope, the muse. So he sneaks her home, locks her in a room of his house, and rapes her, giving him the inspiration he needs to write, finishing his second book, and becoming as successful as an author in 1987.
That's not how muses work.
It's not how muses are supposed to work.
It's not how muses are supposed to work. Yeah.
What is so? When I think of the Muses, I think of the 5-part singing group from the Hercules intro.
As everyone does.
That serves as the plot device.
Yes.
And I also know that like a muse is, something that you long for, you desire. What has been the role, I guess, of like, obviously this is not the way, as we have said, the way muses are supposed to work. What is the
role
token,
of muses?
Yeah, the token role of, I guess, a muse in Greek mythology.
So in Greek mythology, the muses are agents of whatever the god of art in Greek mythology is, and they're demigods, go to Earth and act on their behalf.
Is it Dionysus? Is that it?
Probably.
Dionysus,
right? Yeah, I think it's
Thanks
Dionysus.
for contributing, Todd.
Hey, sorry, my dad works for Nintendo.
There are 9 muses, one for each art, as defined by the Greeks at the time. Calliope is the youngest, and the muse of writing is said to have inspired Homer.
Gotcha. I was just making sure like there was an actual like where muses are typically grounded into the story, just because obviously like this man is trash.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this author is keeping Calliope locked up, forcing himself upon her whenever he feels he needs to write another book. In her desperation, Calliope kind of calls upon we called them fates earlier, but they're this triad of witches that keeps appearing throughout the story. The kindly ones, they're the same witches that are depicted like the opening of Hamlet, the bubble bubble toil and trouble scene. But she asks these witches for help contacting the only person who could help her old lover, Dream. Calliope is also the only person Dream has ever had a child with. Orpheus of Greek myth is Dream and Calliope's child. That comes up later. Not important right now.
Cool.
Dream confronts Maddox, the author, who tells him that he will free Calliope eventually, but needs her now for ideas. This rightfully pisses Dream off, who curses Maddox with too many ideas, which drives him mad with so many thoughts. He feels compelled to write until he like runs out of writing material, and then they find him like he's got like his fingers scratched down to the bones because he's been like scraping the walls trying to write all these ideas down.
Amazing.
That's some real
rad.
monkey's paw shit right there.
Yeah. It sure is. And like clutching his like scratching at his face trying to write more. He like tells his assistant like, go to my house, go to this room. You will find a young woman there. Set her free. Please. Like I'm going to kill myself if this doesn't end soon. So she is free, and he immediately then finds himself unable to like hold on to any ideas at all. He is immediately like idea-less and devoid of any inspiration whatsoever for what he's done.
Wow. That's so rad. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously
I like
not
that a
rad,
lot.
but at the same time, like rad.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's got really really fun like Twilight Zone energy. I like that a lot.
Yeah. All the vignette. There's a couple like vignette issues of the series. They're all kind of like that. So the next big story in this one is The Dream of 1,000 Cats, which I mentioned up at the top as well. Is told from the point of view of a house cat that is like called out of the house by a stray, and like all these other cats like going the same direction through London.
Right. And then they like sing and dance, and there's this really sexual one, and this guy who talks about a train, and then they sing about memories, and one of them goes away forever. Yeah, I get it. I've read this story.
One of them is Jason Derulo.
So all these cats, every cat in London almost goes to this graveyard, where they gather around this old Siamese cat, who tells them her encounter with Dream. So Siamese cat says like, oh, I had once been a house cat like you, enjoying the comfortable life, thinking my owners loved me.
We are Siamese, if you please.
We're Siamese, if you please. When she like describes this like fling with a stray cat, she gets pregnant and gives birth to a litter. It kind of reveals her that she's this purebred Siamese cat. The owners are posh British people. They don't want this like litter of mutts, so to speak. So they have her kittens drowned. Overcome with grief, the cat falls into a sleep, travels to the dream world, and like it shows this cat going through this long journey through the dream world to meet Dream in cat form. He appears as a like all black cat with his like white cat eyes.
It's kind of fun.
Neil Gaiman's head
Yeah.
on the cat.
Superimposed. And tells Dream asks Dream why are humans so cruel. And Dream tells her a story of a time when cats were the dominant form on Earth. They were giant, and humans were little, the size of mice. Cats were in charge. Very, very fun and happy for a cat, until one day a human is born with the ability to dream and tells other humans of the wonders of dreams and like wishing for more, and brings more and more humans under his fold, giving dreams more and more power, kind of explaining where his power sort of comes from, but also like being this fun little folk tale to tell this cat. until so many humans at the same time dream of being the dominant over cats or whatever, that reality changes and they manifest the world into this new world where humans were always in charge. Cats are now what they are today. No one remembers what life before that was like, which is a reoccurring
Wild.
theme. Yeah, a reoccurring
That's
theme
wild.
of the graphic novel is like the stories we tell and the things that carry throughout time is just as real as like what's actually happening. So that it cuts back to this cat in this graveyard and is basically like now recruiting cats to also dream of a better life and spreading the legend of dream and like, cats, if you all join me and dream of this better life, it will manifest. And then we follow the cat back home and it falls back asleep and wakes up the next day to like its little paws twitching, and humans are like, oh, I bet it's dreaming of chasing something, and it's like these visions of cats on top again, and it's a very, very cute story.
The cat uprising will be upon us once again.
And the cat uprising will be upon us someday.
That's very cool. I like that one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When I realized what was happening reading the story, I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is very, very cool. So then we move on to our next story, which shows us Dream meeting with William Shakespeare.
Okay.
Of course.
So we kind of actually saw this set up in a previous novel in like a B or C story, with another reoccurring character. Dream kind of gives inspiration to William Shakespeare in trade for commissioning 2 plays for him, one of which is A Midsummer's Night Dream.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
That is the one that has Hippolyta in it.
Yeah. So it opens with these actors like setting up for their first performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and they follow Dream to where he says the performance will take place, and he takes them to this like empty field on the edge of the woods, and they're like, oh, what, where are the people? And he's like, they'll be here, I promise. Out of the woods come all of the fairy folk, like all of the fae creatures of British folklore come to watch A Midsummer's Night Dream. And they start the performance. The fae are all very amused because that's what the subject of A Midsummer's Night Dream is like the fairies coming to visit on summer solstice, and they're all very like, oh, that's me, that's you, like ha ha ha, and they're like laughing at it, and it's fun, and kind of reestablishes that theme of like, hey, this isn't how I really am. And Dream tells him like, no, like because of this play, that's how they'll remember you, and that's what will be real. And it's over. And it was very good. I guess it's considered one of the best like standalone issues of the series. It, wraps itself up very well. It's very like a fun little story with William Shakespeare and the play, but ties into this greater story.
I like thinking that William Shakespeare is canonically in the DC universe now.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we wrap up this book with another one-off. And it's doing that thing of like taking an old character DC had acquired and trying to give her new life. In this case, it is Element Girl. It's the female version of Metamorpho. She's, if you know, like what Kevin Eleven's design is, it's kind of that.
Yeah.
Wait,
What is a
What?
what is a Kevin 11?
Oh,
Ben 10.
Other
Ben 10.
than a convenience store.
Yeah. That is a good parallel to draw. Kevin 11. Oof.
I had to go and look so that I could remember, because you said the name Kevin 11 and I was like, oh, I remember the person, but not the book.
Wait, is that real? That wasn't just a joke?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's real. That's real,
Mhm.
real.
Element Girl is the character we're focusing on. Kevin 11 is the comparison I made.
Didn't I talk about Element Girl when I talked about the bouncing boy?
Oh, you
feel
might have.
like-
Yeah, I
You may
think you
have.
did.
Because I think she is part of the JV squad, the not so superheroes or whatever
Yeah.
they're called.
So this is a one-off, kind of giving her a different a different take or whatever. So Element Girl's powers is she can kind of manifest she can manifest anything if she can think of its chemical composition. She does transmography, basically. But looking the way she does, she is very afraid to go out into the world. She wants to look like a normal person and go blend in. So that it opens with her like manifesting these masks and like trying them on and trying to get them to work. And she talks about trying to manifest its skin once, but it just appeared as like rotten flesh and like stunk up her house for months. So she doesn't try that anymore. But basically it's driving home how kind of lonely and miserable and suicidal she is. And she is visited by Death, who tells her, yeah, your suspicions are correct. You can't die in this form, but you were given your powers by the god Ra. Maybe Ra will take them back. And it just ends with her kind of like looking into the sun, pleading to be free of this existence, and she like turns into sand and dies. And that's book 3.
Kyle, one favor. When you edit this, can you make sure to splice in a Cure album while you're telling us
It's
this
very...
story?
I could not help thinking the comparisons to the Cure aesthetic is all over this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first time I saw a picture of like the Dream, who I assumed when I saw the picture was, oh, that must be the Sandman. But when I saw Dream for the first time, I was like, yeah, that's definitely the Cure for sure.
Yeah.
Questions before we go into book 4. Thoughts,
That's
comments.
cool. I love anthologies to set up characters in the universe. I always love that.
Yeah.
That's why I love The Witcher. It's why I loved the Animatrix more than the rest of the Matrix movies.
I was just gonna say this was the Animatrix book.
Yep.
And there's a couple more of them that come up, but I got the impression as I was reading through this, they were really given a lot of time and could take the time to diverge and tell these very cool stories under the DC banner. And like, it's very cool. Which takes us to our 4th book. And we're going to kind of pick up the pace here a little bit because I underestimated how dense the reading was and only got through the first 3 volumes before we had to record today. But I did a very thorough finishing on the research and it connected it all back. And I don't think you will be missing anything except some of the more colorful descriptions. And I do intend to finish the series now, so I'll touch base with the group later. So our 4th book is another exposition heavy one. It opens on a gathering of the Endless. So all 7 siblings are together.
Nice.
Things turn sour when Desire mocks Dream for how he is treating Nada, the woman he has still locked in hell, which I guess pisses Dream off enough or finally makes him reconsider that she's in hell enough that he decides to go and free her.
I'll show you. Watch me.
Yeah. And then he sweats it a little bit, knowing Lucifer like swore vengeance against him last time as well. Shows up, Lucifer is like fine, like not mad at all, and is in fact like giving up the responsibilities of hell. And he's just like, I'm got all my demons out of here. I'm locking the doors and leaving. And hands Dream the keys to hell. And is like, I don't care anymore. Like literally like turns the key, locks the gates to hell, and hands them to Dream.
You can fit so many demons in this bad boy.
Dream does not want ownership of hell at all. He's like, what? No, I don't want this. And is immediately thrust into this like bidding war, begging war from other people who would want to own hell. And a lot of this book is to set up these characters who come back in the finale. So we meet Odin, Thor, and Loki. One group who want to own Hell to stop Ragnarok. You've got Anubis and some other Egyptian gods come, and they just want Hell because Anubis is the god of death in Egypt, and he wants more underworlds. There's a Shinto storm god that shows up. Azazel, who had been a lesser demon, shows up. He offers Dream Nada's freedom in exchange for the keys to Hell. And Order and Chaos both show up. Order shows up as a cardboard box.
What? Wait, what?
Order manifests as a cardboard box, and Chaos manifests as a little girl in like clown makeup.
Oh God.
What?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, why not? Why wouldn't they?
They put in their pitch for Hell, and a representative of the Fae show up, and they suggest, what if no one runs Hell? Like, what if you just leave it locked up? And there are two angels there who show up, but apparently just to observe.
I'll get it on Tuesdays. You'll get it on Thursdays. And then Chaos can get it every other Wednesday. Perfect.
Weekends, holidays, and every third Wednesday.
Yep.
Hell is a timeshare.
So Dream leaves Hell back to the dream world, and all of these deities follow, demanding he decide what happens. A big showdown takes place, which ends with Dream handing off the keys to Hell to these angels who had been there just to observe. He's like, you guys don't want it, but have the ability to deal with this. I'm giving it to you. And that's book 4. It ends with a long monologue by Lucifer, like watching a sunset and like admitting to God. He's like, it's a pretty good sunset. But yeah.
Did he free Nada? Was that a thing? Did that happen?
He did free Nada.
Okay, good. I would have said the whole reason going down there, like, you know what? Fine, I'm gonna free. Oh wait, there's a whole thing now.
Yeah. So Nada had been kept when Hell was closed down. Nada was being kept in Azazel's mind because
Azazel done messed up.
So he targets out Azazel, frees Nada, who then is reborn as a newborn baby on Earth, but before she does that, Dream is like, whatever form you are, you'll exist throughout eternity now, and you're free to come to the dream world whenever. So they have their nice little like, I forgive you, we're not together, but you'll always be kind of thing. And they wrap that up.
Azazel looks at him and goes, what are you going to do? Climb into my mind and take her? And he's like, no.
Azazel is another character that I didn't realize existed in DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
And so my question, that is a statement. Now to make it a question, is Azazel a public domain character from something? Like is
Azazel's from the Bible.
Azazel is a named angel, fallen angel like Lucifer in the Bible.
Got it. I quit going to Sunday school before we got into the deep lore, so I don't know all the names and faces, but makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
It's like the extended Bible universe.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's all the extra stuff that you don't get in the Bible, but people just know, like the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's like that.
Yeah, like I didn't even read the whole book. I just saw the movie.
All right, and that is the end of book 4, which is all just kind of starting to set up this final showdown and like starting to set up where how the end of the story plays out. With that, we need to take a short break. So we will be right back. Does anyone have anything to say before we go to break?
I have to tell the audience that I have made a deal with Lucifer and I'm being dragged to hell, and I may not be back for the second half, but I want to say thank you for doing this, Kyle, and I'm going to go look at the rest of these books on my phone literally in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I have the if you download a comic book reading app, I have the files if you want it.
Awesome.
Andrew, after we're done with this episode and it gets edited, you can record a 90-second, oh my god, this is what I thought at the end, and we'll slap it onto the end of this bad boy.
Perfect.
Awesome. We will be right
Okay, listen, you know as well as we do, one day Nintendo is gonna come knocking and tell us to stop using the Wii Shop music, or they're gonna sue the underwear off us. So instead of that, today I'm going to read you terrible gaming jokes I found on the internet for the next 60 seconds. I have not pre-read any of these. Let's see how it goes. What game do you play after eating Taco Bell? Fortnite. I asked my dad why a grown man would play Pokemon Go. He said, why not? How do you cure hunger in Minecraft? 3 square meals. What does Sonic use to knock on a door? Knuckles. How do you get a Bulbasaur on a bus? You poke him out. What did Princess Zelda eat for breakfast? A sausage link. Damn it. PS4 got injured and Xbox One is calling the ambulance. Wii U, Wii U, Wii U, Wii U. Jesus, 60 seconds is a long time. Why is a Jedi Knight never lonely? Because the Force is always with him. Why shouldn't you ask Yoda for money? Because he's always a little short. Why did Mario cross the road? Because he couldn't find the warp zone. What did Super Nintendo say to Sega Genesis? You know, everyone always tells me that I'm a bit better than you. Why did Sony hire Justin Timberlake to fix the PlayStation Network? Because they were hoping he could bring more than sexy back. Okay, I'm done. I'm never doing that again.
Well, now that we've imprisoned Andrew into Azazel's brain,
Azazel's mind, a glass sphere. All right, we are back. We just wrapped up book 4, moving into book 5, A Game of You. This is more plot, more story, I guess. So remember that housemate I said would come back from book 2?
I do.
Yes.
She's back. So the character Barbie, one of Rose's many housemates in book 2.
Wasn't that the doll's house?
Yep, you're right.
All right, then.
Barbie is married to a man named Ken, and they point out the absurdity of the situation in the book. Yeah. It's all very self-referential. So it's set up in the doll's house that Barbie has unusually vivid dreams. The way they kind of reveal that Rose is the vortex is it shows each housemate in their dream, and then all those dreams kind of like converging and then some of it dropping into the house to like become reality.
Cool. Hell yeah, that rules.
Yeah. So Barbie has these very vivid dreams where she is in a like Renaissance style adventure, like fantasy. She is a princess. She's always depicted as a princess, like in the British countryside with like these fantastical creatures. But it's pointed out in the doll's house that the dreams are much stronger than everyone else's in the house at the time. So Barbie now lives in New York. They were in Florida the first time, and has not dreamt in a while. Her normally vivid dreams have gone. She is visited by Martin Tenbones.
Martin Tenbones.
A character from her dreams.
Mafia hitman Martin Tenbones.
Hey, that's Martin Tenbones over there.
Martin Tenbones and Joey Bag of Donuts.
Yeah.
So she is visited in New York by this very like 14th century looking adventurer
named Martin Tenbones.
Named Martin Tenbones. And he gives her an amulet, tells her she has to go save her dream world, and is killed by the police.
That R.I.P. Martin Tenbones.
He when he shows up, he causes all kinds of commotion and gets an unfortunate end with the police is how that confrontation wraps itself up.
Yeah, because he's like a 14th century adventurer. So like man out of time, dropped into 1989 New York City.
Yep.
Shot up by the boys in blue.
Yep, you got it.
What a relevant and timeless story
Yeah,
that
it's
is,
terrible.
Kyle.
Super bad.
Super not great. So this amulet Martin Tenbones has given to Barbie
Martin
allows her
Tenbones
to.
is just a name I'm not ever gonna take serious.
Nope.
No, you shouldn't. That's kind of the point. Like it's
In
this
my
ridiculous.
mind, he's not just this like man at a time. He's like Jack Skellington. Like he's literally like a skeleton. Like he's goofy.
He's a man from the dream world of what is essentially a Valley Girl, like a mid '80s Valley Girl. So it's as ridiculous as it is meant to be. So this amulet lets Barbie go back into her dream world, which we find is called. She has been calling it the land since she's had these like series of continuous dreams in this place. She's named it, and it's the land. So she learns she has got to stop a new villain who calls herself the Cuckoo and sets out on her quest.
Okay.
So this is all Barbie is asleep, questing in her dreams to defeat this dream villain.
It's lucid dreaming.
Wait, quick clarification question. And this is a dumb question, and I'm mad that I'm asking it, but I need to know. When Barbie is asleep, questing in her dreams, is her real world body in dreamland, or did she exist in a bed somewhere?
Her body is in our world. She is asleep in her room.
Okay.
Because her new crazy cast of roommates are all there, and things are happening to them.
It's
Sure.
like Avatar. Your body is here,
Yes.
but your mind is
Yep.
elsewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the real world, Barbie has just set off on her adventure. Back in the real world, the Cuckoo appears and begins unleashing nightmares from the land on the housemates of Barbie.
What is the Cuckoo?
We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
All right.
But it is a manifestation of something from Barbie's dreams. So the housemates are fighting these nightmares, and in kind of their like quick introduction, it's one of the housemates is a witch, but it's played as like, haha, oh, you're like an 80s witch.
Yeah.
When these nightmares are attacking, she like performs a sacrifice and like dispels all the nightmares, and it's like, oh, okay, awesome. So they're all fine-ish. The house is destroyed, but they're fine-ish. Back to Barbie, who has gone through a series of adventures, and like there's all these like side dream characters that like, oh, where have you been? While you were gone, I did this horrible thing, and they all tie back into like how the Cuckoo has taken over what is a new pocket dream world of Barbies. So the Cuckoo is a manifestation from the dream world, not created by Dream like the last two, but did the same thing, blocked Barbie off, tried to make her own dream world, but isn't going to go and like take over the dream world as a whole. She's going to send out eggs, she calls them, to other people where they will repeat what just happened here and like create that isolated dream world, gather power, and spread more until they can finally take over.
Did you already call this thing a parasite, or am I just realizing this thing is like a parasite?
You got it.
Yeah.
You just figured it
Okay.
out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry. That seemed I didn't know if I was getting ahead of it, but I'm like, this sounds parasitic, whereas everything else is just like they do it because they're bad, or they do it because they're powerful and bored.
Yeah.
We learn at the end that this is not the first iteration of the land either of this happening. Like Barbie got egged by a past iteration of this happening. Like this is already, they didn't stop this from happening. It just, she happened to be saved in this instance.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Right. The big plan is revealed. Barbie destroys the amulet given to her by Martin Tenbones, her tie to this dream realm, which causes a big enough ripple throughout the dream world to draw the attention of Dream, he shows up in this isolated dream world and rejoins Barbie's isolated world back to his, and then kind of imprisons the cuckoo so they can't do anything else. Dream Barbie goes back to New York. Everything isn't great. There was while she was dreaming, a storm hit and killed one of her roommates, and it ends with this scene, which I only mention because of it. Again, it's 1992 at this point. One of Barbie's roommates was a trans woman named Wanda, and it shows Barbie visiting her grave, which is marked with her dead name, her old name, and Barbie changing it before it ends the book. And just something I thought worth mentioning from literature from 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's not what I would have. When you started what you were saying, I did not anticipate it ending that way for a book from the early 90s.
Yeah,
For sure. Yeah, that's really cool.
There's some other stuff set up in this book. That's the main through line, is this story. But it's kind of this one-off story that takes place of people trying to take over the dream world to gain its power.
And that's the story arc. That is you read the Sandman because someone is trying to take over the dream world and Dream's gotta stop it.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like that's the theme, that shit has gone sideways and Sandman rolls up and is like, come on. What are you
Don't
doing?
make me do this. So we go into book 6, Fables and Reflections, which is another kind of vignettes style story. And this is all related. These are all, the through line here is they're all older stories, older myths and famous historical stories or whatever, where Dream had been involved, so to speak. One of them is Marco Polo, and on his big adventures, he wandered into some desert that shared a border with the dream world, and it talks about what he sees. We get this telling of Augustus Caesar. It's another story of Dream helping a troubled human. The big thing introduced in this book, though, we meet Orpheus, Dream's and Calliope's son, who becomes a recurring character, and we meet Daniel Hall, the son of Lyda, the woman who had been pregnant in that dream bubble for so long.
So that's the kid that it's gonna come back later with.
That's the
Daniel
kid.
is the later.
Daniel's the later. All these and Daniel is kind of the framing device for all the short stories. They're all being told to him 1001 Legends of Arabian Nights style.
Sure, gotcha.
Somewhere in this, it is Lyda and Dream have a conversation where Dream tells her because he was pregnant, you were pregnant with him for 3 years in the dream world. He is made of dream world material and will have to return there eventually. And then nopes out of there, leaving her with that
Bye.
existential threat. Yeah, we get the introduction of Orpheus. They kind of tie back into the overall story, showing how awful a father Dream is because he's so distant and doesn't care about his son. And we move into book 7.
Could have fooled me that this somewhat omnipotent unattached demigod may not be the best dad.
Yeah.
Probably not the best father.
Yeah.
So from there we go to book 7, Brief Lives, which follows Dream and Delirium, which is the youngest Endless, as they search for their brother Destruction.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. So they seek out, they go out looking for people who might have known Destruction, where he would be, and every person they meet before they leave is killed in some kind of freak accident. The first one, a building a piece of a building falls off and falls on him. A riot starts in the club she's like performing in, and they tear the building down, and it like collapses on her. There's like 3 or 4 people where they meet them, and they come to a horrific death shortly
It's
after.
real Final Destination situation.
Real Final Destination thing.
I just looked to see what the release year of the original Final Destination was.
What's the verdict?
2000. Much
Okay.
later.
Okay. Yeah.
So Dream realizes that like this is these people are dying because they're looking for destruction, and stops. It tells Delirium like, no, I'm out. I'm not causing any more violence. I didn't really want to find him in the first place. I was just like doing it to do you a favor.
I didn't have anything better to do.
We're done. Death comes, talks him back into it, kind of shames him for like being a bad sibling. All 3 of them go to back to Destiny. They go to talk to Destiny to try and get like a new lead or whatever. And they see a series of like prophecies and flashbacks as Destiny reads out of this the book of Destiny that's got everything that's ever happened or will happen in it. So as he's like flipping through to help him find it, they see glimpses of what's written there, and they see the past, which shows like Destruction had abandoned. He has abandoned his job and his realm, and he's pieced out. So they get that clue. Destiny looks up the person who can help him, and it will be Orpheus, Dream's son. So they go visit Orpheus, and he takes them to the cabin Destruction had been staying in. They talk with Destruction. He tells them he's, abandoned his post. He's tired of just destroying all the time and wanted to create. So he came out to this cabin in the woods and is painting and writing poems and being berated for it by his talking dog.
So it's the story of Wreck-It Ralph. It's literally just the story of Wreck-It Ralph.
It is Wreck-It Ralph.
If you would have said that Destruction was in his like hideout cabin, like, and you said, "Hey Todd, take 1,000 guesses at what he's doing and who's with him," doing art and talking dog would not have made the first round through.
Yeah, so they like go. There's a whole like they show what he'd been doing, and it's him like trying all these different things, and the dog's being like, "Really? You gave up? You like left your post to make this kind of piece of shit art? Like, cool, man." And it goes on like that. Like they live for a while like that, and in this he tells them like those people dying, those were because I set traps to keep anyone from looking for me. So you lost those people in these booby traps I sent, these big like cosmic booby traps.
You activated my trap card.
You activated my trap card.
He really Home Aloned them.
He real Kevin McAllister material. So they leave. Destruction doesn't say he's going to go back to his post per se, but he'll like stop just being gone and living in the woods. He's going to kind of goes on a similar walkabout that Dream is doing. And then there's this nice scene at the end where Dream helps Orpheus finally die because he's been alive since ancient Greek times. And they have this nice funeral ceremony and bury him. And it's very, very moving.
That is sweet. But since he is made of endless material, does he continue to exist in the afterlife or something?
They don't really go into that, Matt.
Okay.
He had been existing as a severed head for a while until this point.
Oh.
Good.
So they just buried his head.
Got it.
There's a whole story in one of the early books of Dream kind of befriending this man who doesn't die because he says, like, he decides, like, no, I'm not going to die. Like, I don't want to die. I'm not going to do it. And Dream is like, okay, I can make that happen. You won't die until you want to. Meet me back here in 100 years. And they like meet for every 100 years until from like 19 1386 9 to 1999 or 1989. They meet every 100 years. So there's like precedent for like if death doesn't come to collect you, you don't die.
Sure, I gotcha.
Was where that comes from. And yeah, that is Brief Lives. That is our last book before well, no, not our last book, our second last book before we go into the big finale.
Cool.
I was poking through the wiki, and there's a really, really good quote that it talks about when all of the endless are talking, and it says that destruction reminds Dream that all the endless define their opposites, and the quote is, "Our sister defines life, just as despair defines hope, desire defines hatred, or destiny defines freedom," which then would mean that obviously like dream, the opposite of dreaming would be your reality. So
yes.
that dream in essence defines what reality is.
Mm-hmm.
And then, then the closing line of this wiki, destruction then dismantles his gallery and departs Earth.
Yep.
he packs up his easel and he's like, all right,
time to go.
Now that I've dropped that on you.
Yeah, they do keep bringing back that theme that like dream and imagination is just as reality defining as reality is. So we move into World's End. These, as far as I could tell, are all just kind of window dressing and set moving to get us to the final showdown. It's another kind of thing where like each issue in this book has a main story, and like the framing device around that story pushes the overarching story forward. So it moves forward at one event per issue here.
Yeah.
Told around these kind of more short stories. There wasn't anything super concrete tying it all back together, except everyone is plotting some kind of power grab on the dream world. And by everyone, I mean like Thor, Odin, Loki, Azazel.
Like all those people who showed up for Hell a while ago?
Yep. All those same people who showed up for Hell a while ago are now like...
The people who bid on Hell, like the Storage Wars people bid on a storage unit?
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And it shows us kind of where Daniel is and sets up what's going to happen with him.
And wait, who's Daniel?
The time boy. The weird dream... The half dream boy.
Yep. Okay, gotcha. Cool. Is there a reason that everybody wants Dream World?
Do they realize it's just like that's where the power is?
That's what it is. It's the same thing as like wanting to control death to them. Like
Gotcha.
You control one of these aspects of the universe. That's a lot of power.
Sure.
So and they feel because Dream had been imprisoned for 70 years and all that, and hell, and like all the chaos that caused, they feel the time is for the taking. If they're gonna do it, they got to do it now, kind of thing.
I gotcha.
So this takes us into the kindly ones, that kind of wraps up Dream's story, and then we have an epilogue after that. This is very heady. It's very much its own thing, and this story is told in the style of an old Greek myth, and like isn't told comic book wise. So I will be giving highlights, but you're not getting the full depth of what's going on.
There's like 13 issues to this.
Yeah, it's long. A lot of it is written in prose and not like comic book graphic style. It'll be like page of prose with
written as a Greek tragedy. Yep.
Yeah, page of prose, illustration kind of. And
wow.
So it all the characters are like double or triple cast as like Greek characters too. Lyda is sometimes also shown as Medusa in the graphics. It's very, very dreamy weemy, very artistic licensee. So I'm likely missing some stuff, but the highlights of what happened in this story are Daniel, follow the dream child, following the events of the last book, is kidnapped by Loki. Lyta, his mom, is convinced that this is Dream's fault because she's a little batty, and goes and confronts Dream with the intent of killing him. And again, this is told through the Greek myth lens, where a different Gorgon, a different Medusa character kills him.
Okay.
But it's just called Erinyes, like the name of the character in the myth. We don't know who actually kills him. But Dream dies. Dream gets killed because this woman feels he helped steal her child. While this is all happening, Dream's kind of henchmen have actually recovered Daniel from Thor and Loki and Odin, and he's safe. So when Dream dies, they show up and like, oh, here's your son, he's fine. And,
oh no, you're dead.
Like, oh no, he's dead, you're dead. It kind of wraps the main story up with like Morpheus and Death looking over a mountain peak and kind of just like walking us through the themes and the beats of the story. Like, you know, you're responsible for dreams, but also reality, just like I'm responsible for life, for death as well as life, and blah, blah, blah. Goes through all that again. And because this role always needs to be filled, Daniel kind of ascends to the new Dream.
Ah, because he's already made a Dream bits.
Yeah.
Thus kind of closing that loop of he will have to return to the dream world.
Interesting. Okay. So Daniel, just to clarify and make sure that I've got it, Daniel is not in any way related to Dream, the character who we have been following.
Correct. Correct.
But is made of dream dust and sparkle bits.
Yep.
And is now, so like there is no surviving lineage to take the throne, and this guy made of dream dust fills the role.
Yes.
Because okay, cool.
Because reasons.
Yeah.
And there's some precedents for this in this earlier in the story. It's kind of what Destruction is saying, like, is his reason for stepping back. This happened to Despair as well. We don't know what happened, but Despair died and a new entity took their place. And Destruction saw, like, oh, if I continue in this way, I will die and someone will take my place, and I don't want that. So I'm stepping back, and then this is the third instance kind of here.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's really cool that, like,
I think that's cool.
These are not just endless beings, but that these are pivotal roles in the fabric of reality that have to be filled.
Yes. And yeah, like I said, like, this goes on, they talk, when the Endless talk, they talk about like different worlds and what they, and like different things they do there. Like, they are all throughout, like, time and space are concepts to them, as not so much as like rules they're bound by. It's very, very interesting, very heady, very cool. And with that, we go to the last chapter, the last issue of this book, The Wake. It's just 6-ish issues, I think. 3 of them are people basically giving eulogies for Death at his funeral. And then 3 of them are...
Wait, pause.
Wait, death or dream?
Dream. I'm sorry, yeah. Dream at his funeral.
Got it.
And then the other half are Daniel, the new Dream, meeting with more people and getting basically more eulogies. Like, oh, when it was, you know, oh, I remember what I did with him when it was the last guy. You've got your work cut out for you, kind of thing. Like, just three little stories of that.
Okay.
And that's
cool.
More or less Neil Gaiman's Sandman.
I mean, I do like how it's kind of, it ends with what it sounds like is it ends with tying up all those loose ends and then giving you like effectively like the epilogue, which I think is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like, I don't know. I like the way that the story itself of Dream and the Endless exists outside of like there's a weird way to say it, but exists outside of the comic book that is told. And so
Yes.
like they can tell the story of the character Dream that we follow. We'll call him James McAvoy. We follow
Morpheus.
Yeah.
Draw the distinction of like, this is the Morpheus. This dream is Morpheus,
Right.
and
But
this
like
next dream is Daniel. But
you can do this story that's about this character and put like wrap it up and put a bow on the character without without feeling like you need to tie up the whole universe of like our main person is dead, how does the world keep moving, you know, where like
right.
if this was an Iron Man story or something like that where it's like, all right, Tony Stark is dead and we have to figure out what comes next and what that looks like. I mean, like they can fill the role, but there's more of a void in the universe, and I like that this is like one person is done but there's no space left.
Yeah.
There's no like, oh well, now we have a new guy and he's got to learn and do it his own way. Like it's just he's Dream now, and that role continues to be filled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. Like this is not. I had no idea what this was going into it, and this is not what I would have guessed the story was. But I like this a lot.
I similarly did not know much going into it. I knew it was this very like dipped in the Cure aesthetic. I knew it was like very like Dream. I knew kind of Dream and Death as characters, but like I didn't know what this was before I started reading it. And it has been, and I imagine will continue to be, a very satisfying read as I go forward. Like I said, I got to book 4 today when I realized I need to wrap this up so we can record this today. But I don't think you missed a ton for me not finishing the series. I looked through it pretty well.
I think one of the other things that's really interesting, because I'm looking at the Wikipedia right now, is that like the first 8 stories, or that like the first volume that you talked about, Preludes and Nocturnes, has all of these like guest starring and cameo roles from other major DC characters.
Yes.
Like I know we talked about Constantine and we talked about Dr. Destiny, but per this wiki that I'm reading, there's also Mr. Miracle, who I haven't heard of, and Etrigan the Demon, who I have not heard of, but also Martian Manhunter, Scarecrow, the original Sandman. There's a cameo of Batman, a cameo of Green Lantern. Like they poured the DC into this to make sure it would catch with the reader.
So that first volume, definitely. That first volume has it all over the place. A lot of Dr. Destiny's scenes take place in Arkham Asylum. That's where Scarecrow comes in. It's like the other guy in his cell is Scarecrow. Martian Manhunter is used to set up the idea that like the legend, like Mars had its own series of legends involving Dream. So he meets Dream. Dream appears to him as a Martian, and like with all the aesthetic on it. And John is immediately like, "Oh, you are this Martian name. Like, please, like, however can I help you? You are, I know who you are." Like, immediately knows him because, again, they appear to all civilizations ever. This series it started under as best I can understand, it started under the DC flag, but DC used it to spin off Vertigo, which was their way to get around the comic censorship laws at the time. So at the time, if your I think it was if your label had anything adult under it, you had a harder time selling your books in places kids could buy them. So DC spun off Vertigo so they could sell the Vertigo, the adult comics under Vertigo, but still sell like the Superman comics in the grocery store or whatever.
Yeah, because this was running at the same time, or I think about the same time as the Marvel Knights which I think was sort of Marvel's attempt at like the darker, weirder things. And I think they used Knights to get around some of the same censorship things. Because I know like Marvel Tsunami was a little later in the 2000s and was sort of similar. So it's an interesting piece of comic book history that there are these stories that involve all these DC characters but end up being printed under a different label.
Yes. Comic book history, the history of the comic book industry is its own whole thing that could just be an entire separate podcast itself of like stories of comic book industry history. And I did want to include some of that with like the Alan Moore stuff, and the Vertigo Comics stuff is very cool.
Yeah.
I think it was now I need to double check, but I'm pretty sure it was in the 50s or the 60s that the United States was actually censoring comics. Like there were some very, very strict the Comics Code Authority was what it's called, and it was in 1954. So I taught a college class over this, and I put it in my first year seminar at an institution I worked at. But basically, like they set the rules of like what comics could or could not do for a long time, which included like bad guys can't ever win, and like first responders can't ever get hurt, and like it was
guns, very tied to the Red Scare.
Yep.
And
so granted, this is all we're all talking about things 40 years later.
Yes.
But like it all still like it kind of bundles into that same concept.
And I know by this time they had laxed somewhat, but there were still some like hard line in the sands. You like can't do these things, and they were cracking down on them after things like The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen had come out. They were kind of like, okay, maybe not sell Frank Miller and Alan Moore in grocery stores next to the Archie comics. It was pretty much the distinction.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up, I was curious, and I looked through the wiki to see how much of this story is contained in the audiobook that I know spawned my mom requesting this flavor text.
Oh, yeah.
And what I found was that the quote from Wikipedia is it's the first 3 volumes.
Okay.
Which I assume is... I doubt the first 3 issues. I would think the first 3 books.
That's how I would interpret it. So everything up through, I would imagine like
Dream Country,
the like Calliope and the cats and the Willie Shakes story.
Yeah,
would somewhere in there is where they probably cut off.
Yeah, because that's like I'm not a reader. There's no way that I could slog through 11, even if they're graphic novels. Like there's just it won't happen. But I'm 100% gonna do the audiobook or the audio drama. And so I'll certainly report back with how far it goes, but I'm assuming that it's some storytelling, like some telling of the first 3 books.
Yeah.
Preludes and Nocturnes, The Dollhouse, and then I'm assuming that Dream Country is probably interwoven through there.
Which that makes sense, because those all I see adapting to a radio drama much easier.
Yeah.
The thing here, I think, is that for those of you who only listened to the audiobook that caught the first 3 books, what you were really missing out on was the existence of Martin Tenbones. And now you know
Martin Tenbones.
Martin Tenbones.
You know about Martin Tenbones and what other? Nothing else. And the talking dog, Martin Tenbones, and the talking dog who mocks destruction.
Yeah,
which was my favorite child's storybook.
Yes. What do you guys think?
I'm in.
You're in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with Matt that there's obviously a lot here to read, and I don't know if I would ever get like fully like all in on that, but I think I would be interested in listening to the audiobook and seeing if there's audio recordings of the rest. Because it's an interesting story. It's super, super interesting, and I did not think it was going to be as, I guess, attractive as you made it out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never in a million years, I mean, I knew nothing coming in, but I never in a million years would have guessed any single thing about this plot outside of probably the sentence, "It's about the Sandman and he controls dreams." I think that's all that I ever would have pieced together in trying to guess the plot of this. So thank you to you, Kyle, and big old kudos for like putting all of this into as consumable a short story as it can be. Because like this is, it's kind of like when we did Neon Genesis Evangelion, or even when we did Kingdom Hearts, that like even looking at all of this on paper and having someone explain it to me, this is a convoluted storyline.
Yeah. It's very verbose. I started reading the first issue of the book, and it is a lot of flowery language, a lot of learning to map where the speech bubbles go, because they play with the form of comic books throughout all 11 issues. But once you kind of settle in and can track where it goes, because it is mostly the same artists and it's Neil Gaiman the whole time, so you learn the patterns there. It starts to read a little faster. But yeah, I had a similar thought when I started. It was like, am I gonna get through all of this? Oh boy. So but it is a good story. I do recommend at least listening to the audiobook to get some of it. But if you like to read, they are a very good read. They are very good graphic novels, and I recommend you read them if you're a reader. That's the Sandman. That's my piece.
Right on. Well done, Kyle. Thank you.
So everyone, thank you for listening to Debate This. Follow along with the argument on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at DebateThisCast. And you can also find us on Patreon, where you can do what Brenda did and commission a fabulous flavor text of your own, or just support us at one of the lower levels as well. All the benefits are laid out there on the Patreon. Until next time, I am Kyle Harper.
I'm Matt. Hell is a timeshare, Cole.
I'm Todd, a dog that critiques your artwork. And Andrew Henderson is stuck in the dream world.
And we are all saying thank you for debating with us. If you think you're wrong, you can come fight us behind the swing sets, nerds.